Be limitless. In this video, we are going to talk about being limitless. The superpower, almighty, or power that we say that runs the world. He or she never gave us a limit. He said that, he did not even say. He said that you can think. He gave us power to think. He gave us power to act. He gave us everything that we wanted. And then if we are putting limits to ourselves, that is actually wrong. You need to empower yourself to reach what you wanted to always in your life. In this video, I'm going to talk that how positive thinking and your actions can make you achieve that you always wanted to. Hi all, I'm Shreeram Iyer. I'm CEO of QUBIT AI Technologies, and my childhood dream was always to become an entrepreneur. And I had no idea that how to become an entrepreneur, and I really don't know whether entrepreneur word is right that I wanted to be. I remember when I was in my college, and it used to be like on the last page of my notebook, I always used to write CEO at the rate 35. I don't know why that hit me and what made me think that that I should be CEO at the age of 35. And I'm talking, this is probably around 20 years back or so, in my early teens, that I wanted to be like CEO of a good company when people know me. And I don't know what was the origin point of this dream, but I wanted that by 35 I should be a CEO of a good company. And interestingly, at that point in time, I felt that certain people in my class at that point in time used to ask me, Shreeram, you talk about being CEO, but what is a CEO? And I used to tell it's Chief Executive Officer. So I'm talking to you about 20 years back, where you had limited engineering colleges. I'm talking to you about 20 years back, where you had limited internet access. I'm talking to you about few years back when the only way of getting good knowledge was still limited internet, but books and newspapers. So at that point in time, people used to ask me, hey, you talk CEO, but what exactly it is? And I said, hey, the person who heads a company, a person who wants to be. And I tell you this, there is a small story also behind it. I did my internships in a company called Eicher Motor, and I used to see people very passionate about working. And I used to see the person who runs the company is called the CEO. It was a magnificent setup in Pithampur where I did my internship, and I really felt, hey, can I become a CEO ever in my life? And that my internship with the very first sem of my engineering, at the end of my engineering, made me think, hey, I should be big. I should be asking for bigger things. And there was one more story. When I was a kid, my grandmother used to tell me plenty stories, a lot of stories. And there was one very first story that I heard about her was like when she was teaching me about Dashavatar. The first story was when Vishnu, God Vishnu, he took incarnation as a small fish. So I'll quickly tell that story. So in that story, what happens is like there is a small fish. A sage goes to a small pond, and he just wants to give arguments, pouring water to the god, to the deity. He takes a small amount of water in his hand, and he identifies a very tiny small fish. And this very tiny small fish tells the sage that, hey, don't put me back into the water. A bigger fish will eat me up. And then what it happens is like that, this sage falls pity on this fish, and then he puts it into a small kamandal, the small jug that they carry. After 2 days, he realizes the size of fish has grown up to the size of kamandal. And then she says that, hey, this has become too small for me. Can you put me into bigger vessel? And then that sage is kind enough, takes that fish out and puts into another vessel. In few days, it takes the size of that vessel. And further, then, that vessel keeps on growing. And then after a few days, the fish requests that, can you put me back into the pond? From pond, few days, the pond is small for the fish. The ship is now shipped to a river. And from river is also becoming small for it. So that sage tells that now you're big enough, go to the ocean. Now my question to all of you is, when a fish can be limitless, what is stopping humans to be limitless? We have to never think about limits. Had been, I would have thought that how could I become a CEO at 35? It would have been never that I would have reached an opportunity to work with such peoples. And being 35 and being CEO is not a big achievement. People are 17, they are CEO. People at 25 are CEO. It's like, what company are you driving? What kind of mentors you have? And with what kind of people are you working? That makes a difference. And this really question of challenging myself that, hey, can I become a CEO of 35 and working with, best brains in the world? It really is like, asking questions. How can I do it? It was never like the questions were like, will I be able to do it? Question is, how can I do it? And whether I'm using the right resources to be there. So that is what we have to think about and keep working on. So when I am talking to quite a lot of youngsters, so I keep getting invites from different B schools to talk to their guys who are undergoing their graduations or post graduations in the space of management, that how to design life. And I tell them that keep your end picture of your life. Like, I was very clear that I have to be a powerful or impactful CEO working with the best brains in the world. And I started my career as an engineer working in one of the engineering companies. And they said that, we don't want super smart people. We just want people who can do things right. And I asked my questions, am I at the right place to become a CEO at 35? And answer was like coming out very clearly in few years that, hey, no, this is not the right place. You have to grow. Then after a few years, I felt like, because my end goal was clear, that I want to be a CEO at 35 and I want to call my first retirement at 40. So that is what I was coming into my mind. And I don't know how close I am to my next retirement plan, but I'm very sure that I'll be able to do that, just because the way I'm thinking about it, how it worked for me, it'll probably help you to decide it. So when I asked myself that question, that in my engineering company, that hey, at the age of 35, will it help me? The answer was no. And then I went for an MBA. When I went into the MBA, the thing is like, I did my MBA from one of the top 10 B schools. And then what happened is like I joined another company which is one of the top system integrators in the world, and that is TCS. So when I was working in TCS, it was like I joined my career in IICU, which is industry specific unit, and I realized, I again asked myself a question after 6 months of joining the job, will this make me a CEO at 35? And answer came out no. So in 6 months or so, I went to the head of the department who was reporting to the vice president, and I said, sir, I have an aspiration to become CEO by 35. So can you do me a favor? Can you please tell me that how should I take next steps so that I actually come there? So he said, Shreeram, probably not in my department, but you should probably think of yourself putting into a consulting department. He recommended me to get into the consulting department. I was working then in strategy department, strategy consulting, wherein I got opportunities to work with CXOs of different companies. Companies were like SAP, Deutsche Börse, Westpac, AGL and whatnot. So in that case, I was very fortunate enough to work with this different kind of setups, wherein I was able to work with different CXOs, learn from them, see what are they doing, and groom up. And then again, I was asking myself the question that if I'm in this consulting space, will I become CEO at the age of 35? So that was the drive again, that thinking that when can I do? This was already, so there was nothing there was nothing wrong. I could have chosen and continued to work in that consulting space, wherein I'm getting very good visibility, working with top CXOs of the world, helping their business to earn few $1 million or $100 million or whatnot. But my aspiration was like, seriously, that hey, I want to be CEO at 35. And what should I do? And interestingly, what happened is like, I was reading newspapers, I was seeing news, and around 6 years back or so, I read news that, Ratan Tata has invested some money in a startup, and which is like, it is an undisclosed amount for a startup. Ratan Tata has written a check. And then I asked myself a question. While working in a company like TCS, will I be able to become a CEO? If yes, will it be at 35? And would it be ever possible for me that at this age, given the track that I have chosen, that I want to be impactful, powerful, and because it's a big ocean there, and there is a lot of talent, and coming up there, will I ever be able to get into Tata Sons? Will I ever be able to talk to somebody who's on the board of Tata Sons in this situation? And my answer was no. It might take more time. So that is when I felt that hey, that I should be able to in next few years become a CEO. Not only do that, but should be able to get in, speak to people who are of that caliber, and probably if I can get a chance. So again, many people, including my family, were saying that is it a good idea wherein you have got an international location as your workplace? You're already talking to the decision makers of the world. Do you really want to come out? And my answer was, my childhood dream. I won't say a childhood dream, but my dream of when I was in teens, that to be the CEO of a company which is impactful. And I said yes. Therein, I made a decision to leave Australia, come back to India, and I joined a venture firm, a family office, which used to do investments into different kind of companies. And the idea was here is like, before I became an entrepreneur on my own, let me understand the rules of the game. So I worked with some companies in that way to understand what exactly it takes to run a startup, whether it is good to invest money in startup, what exactly a VC would look before they are investing money in the startup. I learned that game. I played that game, and probably till the age of 33 and so. And then I felt like now it is the right time. I'll be the CEO at the age of 35 or before that. So that I had this dream of becoming a CEO at a certain age, and I probably achieved it. And I was fortunate enough, that at one point in time when I asked myself that, hey, can I ever go to Tata Sons office? So a couple of years back, I was at Tata Sons. One of our professors was kind enough and to make me an introduction, and I could meet R. Gopal Krishnan of Tata Sons. So had been in TCS, probably I would not been able to. And this is what I say, that if you come up with positivity, and if you think that how things can work on and how things positive reinforces and the checks that you're putting in your all life. So I recommend everybody that create a graph of your life. In this graph of your life, in every year or two, you check that what you want to do, what you wanted to do, and are you doing right things to reach there. It might happen that you might slip for a year or two. It might happen there might be some circumstances which come in. It might be a thing you feel something has actually thrown you out of the track, but rework to get on that track. And trust me, there's nothing impossible. Today, when I am CEO of this company, I'm fortunate enough and blessed enough that I have R. Gopal Krishnan as one of my mentors in this company. So what I had thought that I would achieve at the age of 35, I actually have done it. But it was with a bit of positivity that I always carried. I never had a thought that, I'll not be able to do it, or would I really be able to do it? Question always was, am I doing right? Am I doing sufficient? And am I sitting with the right set of brains to mentor me, that to take what decisions I'm taking are right or wrong? So I would say that, nothing is in this world challenging you in terms of you cannot do it. You have all the power to achieve that you want to. And think about the right milestones. Check them whether you are doing right or wrong. Get in right set of people. Think always positive. Work hard. And absolutely you'll be there where you always wanted to be. All the best.